Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be covering the top 5 fights that most UFC casuals probably forgot about. First on the list is Conor McGregor versus Max Holloway. And this happened back in 2013. And as a reminder, this was only Conor McGregor's second fight in the UFC, and Max Holloway was only 21 years old at the time of this fight. And you can see by the looks of them, they look so young in this picture. It's really funny seeing Conor without really any tattoos. And you can see obviously like Max still has the baby face. But getting right into it, into the fight. So the first round, Conor, this was really close to like prime Conor, honestly. It was the beginning of his UFC career, but he was really just kind of piecing up Max. He was doing a great job throwing a variety of switch kicks and overhands and combos, and he was really just doing a great job of keeping the distance. So the first round, while Max did do a little bit, Conor really took that first round, and honestly, the funniest part of it was Conor did this little like somersault like into almost like a clinch, which looking back at it was probably pretty dangerous, but it just kind of showed that Conor was just super wild, like honestly as he still is today. In the second round, Conor actually scored like a takedown or two and got a little bit of damage, and the third round was actually pretty similar as well. Like Conor was able to kind of piece him up a little bit, got 2 or 3 takedowns. I will say Max did have one little like front kick towards the end of the third round that did a little bit of damage to Conor, but all in all, like I said, this was pretty much vintage Conor at this point in time. Like Max put up a good fight, but Conor ended up winning by unanimous decision. Let's go on to number 2. Number 2 on the list includes 2 household UFC names, Kamaru Usman and Strickland. Both of these people ended up becoming champions in the respective weight class. I think a lot of people maybe forget or overlook this fight because this was back when Sean was in welterweight. Obviously, he eventually became the middleweight champion. But in this fight was completely dominated by Kamaru Usman. In the first round, Usman took him down 1 or 2 times and really had control the entire time. He didn't do too much damage, but a key point of the first round was when Kamaru, I think it was with the elbow, ended up slicing open Sean's eye, and that really affected the rest of the fight. I don't know if the result would have been any different, but for the rest of the fight, he really didn't, Sean really didn't have like much visibility out of that eye, and Usman really took advantage of that. The entire time he was really, taking him down. He was kind of piecing him up when they were on the feet. And honestly, he almost took him out. It was kind of crazy with the overhand, I believe it was an overhand right. Usman knocked down Strickland, and Strickland looked like he might be out. Usman started doing ground and pound, and then it was funny actually. Sean kind of escaped by hiding under Usman's crotch. Like Usman just couldn't really get him because of Sean Strickland's position. And honestly, props to Sean for he was really fighting with like not a whole lot of visibility in one eye. He was able to survive that round. But then back to the third round, it was kind of the same thing all over again. Usman really had control the entire time, and Sean just didn't have much offense really until maybe the last 10 seconds. Sean pushed forward a little bit, maybe landed 1 or 2 times, but it was complete domination to Usman. This was back, Usman went on a 15-fight UFC win streak. So obviously a credible fighter. So this was him when he was really just starting to get in his groove, won by, like I said, unanimous decision. And both of those fighters obviously eventually ended up winning the belt. But this is one that a lot of people forget about just because it was when Sean Strickland was back down in welterweight. Now let's get on to number 3. Number 3 on the list also includes 2 absolute legends, Charles Oliveira versus Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Charles Oliveira obviously had a reign as the lightweight UFC champion. Donald Cerrone, probably one of the biggest UFC legends to never win a belt. But at this point in time, this was back in 2011. Charles Oliveira, he had a lot of hype around him at this point. He was 14-1. Donald Cerrone was actually kind of early on in his UFC career. Obviously, he's has the 4th most UFC wins of all time, so very decorated as well. But looking back on it, this is probably one of the fights that's one of the more surprising results. It only took 1 round. Donald Cowboy Cerrone ended up knocking out or TKO Charles Oliveira pretty early on in the first round. It was kind of crazy. They were on the feet. Donald ended up landing like a left body shot to Charles, and Charles immediately went down. And honestly, like Cowboy was a little surprised by it. Like he kind of backed away at first, the way like Charles went down from that. He was a little confused, but then immediately took advantage of it, went straight to ground and pound, and then the ref had to call it after probably like 9 or 10 shots, and Donald Cerrone ended up winning that fight by TKO. So like I said, looking back at it, like a really like interesting result given that Charles did go on having the career that he still has to this day. Like I said, Cerrone's still a legend as well, but that's fight number 3 in terms of fights that just a lot of people kind of forget that happened. For number 4, we're going up to heavyweight, and this was probably one of the most disappointing fights of all time, which might be why it's already forgotten about. This was back in 2018, so not that long ago, but this was Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou. At the time, Francis was the number 1 contender, and Derek Lewis was number 5. Both of these guys were super, super dangerous, had a lot of knockouts on their resume, but the fight did not live up to it. In the first round, there was really no action at all. Derek probably landed like more of the shots. He had a couple kicks that landed, but really nothing significant. And then the second round, it was really the same thing all over again. Like no guy was really pressing forward. And then this is probably one of the few times I've ever seen this in UFC where two guys are on the feet, but Herb Dean actually stepped in and basically told both of them, like, guys, like you gotta start throwing, like you gotta give the people what they want. But there really wasn't much in the second round either. Derek probably landed, like I said, probably a couple more shots as well. So when we got to the third round, we were thinking that Francis, knowing he might be down 2 rounds, like might try to be more aggressive, but he really did nothing. And honestly, I can't really blame Derek at this point because he probably knew he was up 2 rounds. Francis being a dangerous fighter, he didn't really want to like press forward that much. But the third round as well was also very boring, like very few strikes landed. And the crowd, honestly, from the first round was just booing because there was so much anticipation for this fight. Derek Lewis ended up winning this fight. Here are the stats for the fight. Like you can see, like barely any shots were landed the entire time. It was a huge disappointment. Both fighters ended up apologizing, for not going forward. I can't blame them. Obviously in heavyweight, all it takes is one shot, but this will go down as not only one of the most forgotten fights, but one of the most disappointing fights as well. Number 5 on the list is a matchup that a lot of people are probably familiar with. This is Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. 2022, they fought and Kamaru dominated for 4 rounds, and then Leon came back with a kick heard around the world. But a lot of people don't know that these two actually fought back in 2015, so 7 years earlier, and it was a completely different story where Kamaru really dominated the whole fight. Like I said, Kamaru, he ended up going on a 15-fight UFC win streak. So this is really when he was dominating. He was really manhandling a lot of people in the welterweight division. And this fight was an example of that. In the first round, Kamaru took down Leon really like at will. He didn't do a whole lot of damage, but he did the same thing in the second round. Just kept taking down Leon. And Leon had pretty good defense and would try to go for some submissions, but wasn't really like getting that much luck with it. And in the third round, it was the same thing as well. I mean, Kamaru was really taking down Leon at will. Kamaru definitely did the most amount of damage in the third round in terms of ground and pound, and Kamaru ended up winning the fight by unanimous decision. Obviously, most people think of these two names. They think of the knockout in 2022, and then obviously Leon ended up defending it against Kamaru as well. But like I said, back in 2015, they had a fight, and Kamaru completely dominated. So there you have it. Those are the top 5 fights that UFC fans might forget about. If you made it to the end of the video, I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button down below, and let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with anything that I said. Let me know down in the comments, or if you have any other ideas of different types of videos they want me to do, I will definitely take a look at it. And with that, I'll see you on the next one.